Hello everyone and welcome back to my music jam sesh. On today's show we will be talking about 1920s jazz era, which is one of my favourites, and I'm super happy to be talking about it with my very, very good friend Mia, and she's also a massive fan of it. So
hello everybody. Hello. Today we are talking about jazz.
Jazzy jazz.
Jazz music.
Super excited. But yeah, Mia is on today's show and we'll be talking a little bit later and asking her a few questions about why she loves it so much and what her favourite bits and bobs are about it. Commercial radio is born, the war is over, and life is supposedly good. This week, we're taking a look at the Jazz Age, an era of music born out of post-World War I prosperity in 1920 and ending with the Great Depression in 1929. Obviously, this is not supposed to be a history lesson, but it is very important to have the insight of everything that has happened and why it has created the music that we listen to now and in the past. The end of the First World War meant it was time to party, but there was just one problem: the Prohibition. A new law banning the manufacture, transportation and sale of booze meant that people had to get their buzz another way. This paved the way for new underground nightclubs called speakeasies. Very naughty, but illegal venues where people would go to drink with their friends and listen to live jazz musicians.
Exactly where you would be.
Exactly where I would be.
In that time, that's exactly where you would be.
Exactly. And Mia, this today is why I'm doing this podcast, because I absolutely love it. And obviously, as their popularity grew, jazz has started spreading from their birthplace of New Orleans to major cities like New York and Chicago. And with their migration evolved different styles of jazz and dance, like the Charleston. If you don't know what the Charleston is, you should, because it's one of the most epic dances, and I'd say that most dances have probably stemmed from that sort of jumpy, aroundy type of thing. What do you think about this, Mia? Because you're a dancer, you love dance. Talk to me.
Well, I mean, jazz music is very expressive, and obviously dance is very expressive as well, so it kind of goes hand in hand. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, Charleston, can't go wrong with it. I think it's bloody brilliant.
It is, I agree. So, yeah, on to the next topic. So, on to our next topic, which is famous figures of Jazz Age, and obviously there are so many people who have been able to create a basis of art and intellect for musicians in this present day and age, and I genuinely can name hundreds and hundreds of people who I genuinely adore and I still listen to, bearing in mind we're a century later. And I was talking to Mia earlier about, who are we talking about? Vera Lynn.
Yeah, so that's actually how we came up with the theme for today's podcast. Is we were saying, because obviously she sadly passed away recently, and obviously everybody knows her "We Will Meet Again" song, which is world famous. It's all about the end of the war and, well, being in the war and meeting everybody again and all that kind of jazz. all that jazz. But yeah, so we were talking about that, and then we kind of got our minds thinking about other artists in the 1920s, and obviously jazz was a big part of that.
Yeah, it was. And obviously there had been lots of technological developments, that was a big word, including the radio and recording devices that people, if they did have enough money, could enjoy and listen to. And this new genre of music was very comforting, especially in their own home, because they were able to listen to it via radio, which obviously doesn't sound that amazing to us, but it is, because we can do it off our laptops, off anything, off our phones, and it's just very mad how a century later we are still...
Technology evolves.
Yeah, technology is crazy. So obviously, as we may or may not be aware, that the Charleston was actually created by African Americans, and that became a very, very popular type of dance in the Roaring Twenties. But unfortunately, it was...
Yeah, it was banned. So when we were doing a bit of our research, which I didn't even know, but in some states and in places they banned it for the sexual nature of the dance, because apparently back then showing women's legs wasn't really a thing. Bit of ankle, Mill, you'd be in trouble.
I'd be in lots of naughty trouble.
So because of that, they banned it, and it went Underground
into the naughty speakeasies where a naughty Amelia would like to be. But yeah, unfortunately, due to racial prejudices, most radio stations also gave the majority of the airtime to white jazz musicians. But some artists like Louis Armstrong, who is an iconic legend.
He's named the king of jazz,
Yeah,
isn't
the
he?
father of jazz, exactly that. And he is genuinely probably one of the most influential artists in jazz history. My little Siri just came on, that was weird. So he was... And he definitely earned a reputation for his virtuosic flair and gravelly vocals. And by the end of the 60s, his influence was ubiquitous amongst popular music, allowing him to be one of the first African-American musicians to be identified by the public for his incredible talent rather than just his skin colour.
Which I think's amazing, and it's so linked to today now as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a great...
Very prevalent.
Part of history.
Yeah, exactly. It is a part of history which needs to be remembered, and that is exactly why we want to continue talking about people who are so relevant and why they were relevant and still are. And Duke Ellington was a pianist and a composer who rose to fame with his 10-piece ensemble, which included Rex Stewart and Lawrence Brown. Take the A Train. You may or may not have heard it. Duke and his band reached great heights and featured regularly on radio and TV, as well as touring the world after World War II. So this is all throughout a massive period of time. And as a pianist, he adapted his ragtime style, often associated with silent films, Maple Leaf Rag, and started composing for big band and orchestra. Again, making the importance of everybody into music and allowing them to express themselves via music is just the most powerful thing I feel about music. Yeah. So, on to our next topic, which is a controversial one, as the 20s seems to be very controversial. But prior to the 20s, almost all popular music was actually performed by men. I bet you didn't know that one, did you?
I didn't actually.
No? It's very interesting, but when you actually think about it, it does make sense, because it was a very sexist society. Still getting there to this day, but it's definitely improved. So there was a lady called Betty Smith, and Betty Smith burst onto the scene selling a record-breaking 800,000 copies, I know, of her song Downhearted Blues. She teamed up with our very own, our love of our life, Louis Armstrong. And by the end of the 20s, she became the highest paid black female performer in history, earning the title Empress of the Blues. Thanks to Betty's success, more women had the confidence to pursue careers in entertainment. She set the scene for future giants like Ella Fitzgerald and Nina Simone.
And we were looking, we were obviously Googling about some more history of our favourite artists from that era, and there's a really great story actually about Marilyn Monroe and Ella Fitzgerald, where she couldn't get a gig at a nightclub, and Marilyn said she would come every single night that Ella was playing, and she'd sit in the front row if they gave her like airtime to be able to sing, which I just think is incredible, and one of those stories that
Powerful.
Yeah, it's so powerful, especially these days. I think it's just shows that even back then there was great people who saw
the best in someone and wanted to bring the best out.
Exactly, and not judging
but
by
life-
colour, which is very much what they did.
Yeah,
back
exactly. Ladies in colour, and it's just sad, and like just massive respect to Marilyn. Shout out Marilyn!
Then. Shout out Marilyn!
But moving on, as some may say, thank fuck for flappers. Because with their stockings, I love it too. Their stockings, short bobs, and scandalously short skirts, which probably Mia knows far too much about. Flappers were the rebels of the 20s, and that made it famous for their disregard of social conventions, social norms, and they just completely walked all over it. They smoked, they drove, and they drank. And this was renowned as a very wild attitude, and was a backlash to gender-assigned job roles.
I do think that it's seen as wild back then, but because men were doing it, it was totally fine. But it's seen as wild, like out of character craziness for females to do it, which you would not say to a boy today, boys can stay in the clubs longer than girls can, because I think we hold our own.
I know.
Heels in hand, we hold our own.
We'll be upstairs, like, just partying. Well, it's downstairs now, isn't it? Anyway. So, despite more women working than ever before, they were banging their heads against the glass ceilings of domestic service and clerical work, as well as earning 1/3 less than men on average. How mad is that?
That's crazy.
1/3. Nevertheless, the rise of the economic prosperity meant a rise in independence and confidence amongst women also. They now had the opportunity to let their hair down and be the stars of the show. And this is...
Quite ironic because they had short hair.
Yeah. Let their short hair bob down. But yeah, like I said, this is just like so meaningful for ladies in today's society. And being able
we
to...
talk about it a lot. I mean, obviously it's come in bounds from how it was back there. There's still a lot of sexism in these days. Yeah. One of the many issues of our modern world.
Many.
But I just think it is incredible to look back and see how far feminism and women have come, and just the whole respect for them to do it, because I probably wouldn't have the balls. No. So,
and without them and the suffragettes and everything like that, it's like
where
would
be
we
where
be?
we are today.
Yeah, exactly.
You would not be doing this podcast. I mean, you
I would not. I probably wouldn't even be here today if it wasn't for them.
Amazing.
It is. But yeah, shout out to women.
Woo.
As I previously said on last week's episode, I wanted people to send in some questions, and Mia is going to assist me as my glamorous little assistant.
Yeah, so she hasn't actually seen these questions. One of them we did discuss over dinner last night, and we thought it was absolutely hilarious to talk about all the throwback songs and things. And it is, what song was playing the first time you went to a club?
To be
like bar kind of vibe.
Honestly, I think I'm normally too pissed to even remember before I get into the clubs and bars.
I can confirm that.
You can definitely answer that one.
Yeah, so I remember it was Sheila, which is by Jamie T.
Tune. Love that song.
Yeah, hilarious. And I remember going in with my boyfriend that was way older than me at the time, and he'd snuck me into this bar club kind of thing, and that
Speakeasy.
song was playing. And he knew all the words, and I thought it was so cool. And in that moment, I thought, wow, you're just amazing. You know all the words to this great song. I listened to it on repeat until I knew all the lyrics too. And yeah,
and they're no longer together.
Yes. 16-year-old me is no longer with my boyfriend.
Thank you for that input.
Let's not name drop. Right, moving on. So yeah, that everyone knows that song. And if you don't, then you've been living under a rock.
Yeah.
Right. Next question, which you got, was how did you get on Made in Chelsea? This got asked actually like 4 or 5 times.
Well, there we go. She's my personal assistant for a reason. How did I get... it's very, very random. I was at uni and I just got a phone call and I was going into an exam, and I'm not very good at the whole academia aspects. Shush now. So I got it and I was like, okay, right. I answered it. I was like, who on earth is this? Normally I don't pick up numbers, but there must have been fate. And basically they said, hey, do you want to come in for an interview? We spoke like 4 or 5 different times. They gradually found out that I had dated someone on there, but I didn't actually tell them that bit. And basically they thought that... No. And they did... No, that's a bad...
Ask that for next week.
No, don't. Yeah, no, basically they just thought I was an absolute nutter, and I think I brought a bit of abnormality to the show compared to normal. I'm just very odd, and I think everybody knows that.
We both live in Chelsea, and it's a very different scene, and we're crazy, and we just think it's fun. And you definitely have brought that to the show. I can agree with that. Right, the next question was, which one should I pick?
So many.
Okay, someone said, what was your first ever concert?
Oh.
Please tell me you remember this. I know you have a goldfish brain, but please tell me you remember your first concert. I think everybody does.
No, I do. I actually, my first ever probably was McFly.
McFly!
Yeah, McFly, Justin Bieber, and Rihanna.
Oh, Rihanna and Justin Bieber, you lucky duck.
I know. I think I was like 13. But then I've been to like loads of festivals, and when I was like 14, 15. So I just love it. I live for it.